What's up, guys? Welcome back to News Waves. Yesterday, we had a bunch of stealth game releases. We had some that just kind of dropped. One in particular was on the Switch, and it brings an entire new engine to the system. And it was definitely one that was a whole announcement out of nowhere. It even seemed to leak out a little early. We're gonna go over what happened there, and then also we got to talk a bit about Final Fantasy VII Remake because we did finally get a good shot of what it looks like the file size is gonna be. And remember, this is just for part 1, and it's pretty massive. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, subscribe with the red button down below with that little bell icon on as we push towards 400,000 subscribers. And we're actually going to start today with Rainbow Six Siege, which is Ubisoft's most popular live service game. It gets tons of people that have played it for years now. They tried to play around with a few ideas with a starter edition that was cheaper, but for the most part, it's continued on very, very well, and it looks like Ubisoft is already looking towards next generation, which you kind of have to if you're running a live service. They don't want to just end after the current console generation does, and it looks like they are already planning for a launch day release for Siege for the Series X and the PlayStation 5. This was when they were talking to Windows Central, saying that they are at least aiming for a launch window release. So when the Series X and the PS5 come out, which they'll probably come out a week or two around each other, so you might have one launch and then a week later the other one comes out, similar to what happened with the Xbox One and the PS4. But it appears that Ubisoft wants to be there and ready with Rainbow Six Siege with cross-generation play as well as just straight up cross-play between them. That will be something they say they have to work out with Microsoft and Sony to make sure all of that is good. I mean, consider all of the moving parts there that they have to make sure is ready to go, because PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox One S, Series X, possibly Lockhart, and then we also have the Xbox One X, Series X. It's all over the place, so it is going to be interesting to see how all that goes down, but we already, I guess, at least have one third-party launch title there technically announced for next gen, that being Rainbow Six Siege. Oh, and I like to point out the free games from the Epic Games Store if they are actually pretty good, and this one looks good. I mean, it's basically, if you have the launcher, you can just download it and you get to keep it straight up. It's something Epic Games been doing to try to give them at least more of an appeal over Steam, and they've been working on their storefront a bit as well. It's still nowhere near what Steam is, but either way, if you have it installed, you can go download Assassin's Creed Syndicate starting February 20th, and that was actually a pretty good Assassin's Creed. I mean, that's one that a lot of people at least enjoyed, and it's free. It's on the Epic Games Store, and if you just picked up, you got a new video card, or you want to test out your rig, and you don't want to necessarily go buy games for it, and the Epic Games Store keeps giving them away, so it's at least, I think, worth having the Epic Games Store for whenever these pop up. You can literally just open it up and then click buy or purchase or own for free, and then you have it in there. But Assassin's Creed Syndicate, that's a pretty good one, and it keeps making me think more about Stadia, how they're really not being aggressive. It's polar opposite with the Epic Games Store. They're being overly aggressive, I would say, but they are going up against Steam. However, Stadia is going against, according to them, themselves saying they're going up against the other consoles with the Xbox One, the PS4, and the Switch. So figured they'd be aggressive. Nope, that's apparently the Epic Games Store, with Assassin's Creed Syndicate being free for anyone who has the Epic Games Store installed February 20th. Also, Xbox One users, you may remember that Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 and then 2.8 were also announced. It was weird to have 3 come out and then these older games, Kingdom Hearts games, come out after that, right? That's strange, but it was weirder that it wasn't there in the first place. They did announce, remember last year at, I believe it was their big EXO event. You remember how they announced all kinds of stuff, all the Final Fantasies, and then we heard that Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5, and 2.8 were coming over. Well, they just released on the Australia website for Xbox and then Japan as well. So today you should see them pop up on the US store and other regions as well, including Europe. You should see them start to pop up, and I don't really know why it wasn't marketed or announced, unless they just weren't expecting it to do overly well or it's strange. You feel like they would have put a tweet out last week saying, hey guys, next week check out Kingdom Hearts. It doesn't appear to be an error as they're listed and you can just buy them. So I don't know. Strange nonetheless, but hey, just giving you a heads up, if you were one of the people with an Xbox waiting for these Kingdom Hearts games to drop, go check it out today to see if they are there in your region. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Warface. This was a game that just randomly was announced for the Switch and then dropped right away. Now, this is a free-to-play game, and you know what? I actually like the idea of just free-to-play games just showing up, just appearing, because doesn't cost any money. You don't have to like save up money to get it, or like if it's a $60 game and they say, hey guys, it's available today, yes, they could hurt their sales on that initial hype, and that's why you like to get marketing and of course release dates set in stone months and months in advance, so that way you can give people a chance to get everything planned out and ready to go for the big game to drop. But if it's a free-to-play game, whether it's an MMORPG or a first-person shooter MMO like Warface is, yeah, you announce it and then it's there. Just go get it. I think that's a great way to do it. And that seems to be what they did, or at least they were trying to do. It was very odd because it seemed kind of mixed. People were under embargo, and then all of a sudden we see it appear in Australia, and then they put the information out there, and then everyone else starts running with it, and it was a mad scramble. It was all over the place. However, yesterday, you could actually go on the Australian eShop and go ahead and just download it. Otherwise, today, it should be available in other regions as well. And it is a first-person shooter MMO free-to-play style game, and people do enjoy it. However, others say that it is pay to win. I did not get into it really at all. I remember loading it up back on Windows. This was because I believe it was on CryEngine 3, and I think I had a newer video card and I just wanted to check it out. Like, oh, cool, CryEngine. CryEngine was really big at the time. Of course, Crysis 2, Crysis 3 was on it too, and everyone was just playing around with their new video cards and stuff. And that was just, I remember downloading it. It was free. I didn't really get too into it, but it did also go to the 360 a little later on. And then it did show up on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One in 2018. And now here it is on the Switch in early 2020. Now, over that amount of time, they have managed to register 80 million units. This is from My Game, who is the publisher of this. And it was from Crytek. And of course, it used the CryEngine. And what's interesting about this is CryEngine had not been on the Switch previously that I had ever seen. We heard some job listings and different reports about people working on it, but we didn't really know what it would have been for, any of that. It looks like this could have been one of the things, just getting CryEngine to work on the Switch. And My Game has done a lot of work to CryEngine to make it work on other platforms. Like I said, it went to the PS4 and the Xbox One, and that was something that they talked about modifying it even further so that it could go forward at the next generation. And when you do take these engines and adapt them to different systems, you have to make sure that it works well with those set configurations in those boxes. And they moved it to the 360 even, and that was a whole thing as well. So they have played around with this engine, and it looks like they now have it working on the Switch with its Tegra, which is pretty neat. But it does, I think, open the door possibly, because the groundwork, I guess, is there for the engine to work. And let's say CryEngine 3 games, maybe you could see Crysis 2 and 3, that would be, I don't know, I like Crysis 2, I think that was pretty fun. Crysis 3 was, I mean, you can still use that for a good benchmark for your video card now, but it just goes to show you the Switch seems to still be pretty capable of a lot of stuff that maybe people weren't expecting. These different engines showing up, big games like The Witcher 3, I mean, you really never know what else could happen. It just comes down to what the developers can and even want to do. In this case, free-to-play game. Yes, people talk about it being pay to win for some of the stuff, renting guns and others, but it is free-to-play. You can even just download it and check it out and see what you think. And I do believe that the Switch needs more and more first-person shooters, because there is kind of a lack, especially like military-style shooters like a Call of Duty not being there. Sure, why not take advantage of it with your free-to-play game and let people decide if they want to keep playing it, if they think it is pay to win. But hey, check it out. It should be out there today on all regions on the eShop. Next up, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's coming on 2 Blu-rays. We already know this. They told us this. I believe we all saw it in a collector's edition box set that they showed off, and we saw that there were going to be 2 discs in there, and it was like, wow, okay, this is going to be a large game. But it could have been 70 gigabytes, right? Because you have 50 gigabytes on one disc, 20 on the other, and then you'll get a patch maybe, and it maybe jumps up to like 80 or something. No, this is going to be quite a bit of space you're going to need on your hard drive for what is supposed to be like the first third, we think, of Final Fantasy VII. We're not sure yet. We're going to find out more when it releases in a month and a half. I was hoping it would be the normal, the regular release date still, which would be like 2 weeks from now. How crazy would that have been? But we got to wait a little longer than that. That's fine. I'm really looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake, if you can't tell. But this was actually put out there. Pixel Buster is where I saw it first, posting on Twitter, kind of cropping out the image, which was a box shot that actually someone had received for like the box art. And on the back, it showed a lot of information, which does include 100 gigabytes of install size that you would need. Yeah, that's it's pretty big game there. Now, we've seen Red Dead Redemption 2 use 2 Blu-rays, and that was about that size. I think it might have been a little smaller, but then there were patches and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it adds up pretty quick, but there's a chance that you install one disc, you put the other one in as a play disc, it has to install that as well, and then there's a patch on top of that. This could end up being a 110 to 120 gigabyte game day one, and this is right here. Just part one. Like, we assume there's gonna be 3. There could be 4 parts, depends on how far they want to go with it, but I am really excited now just to see how far this section goes, how much is packed into it. That's the most exciting part, because we keep seeing more and more trailers, more and more cutscenes, more and more screenshots, and it looks like there is quite a bit of attention to detail, we'll say, put in for the different characters, the different character models, the different scenes. I'm really excited. Big Final Fantasy VII fan, of course, from the PS1 days, so I'm really excited to see what we have here. Yes, I'm gonna have to probably spend most of the first night just installing and then downloading a patch and then installing that, but here's hoping that when it's all done, it'll be worth it. Just, if you have a 500 gigabyte hard drive or a 500 gigabyte PS4 right now, you might want to invest in an external drive or just start deleting, like, everything. Next up, let's talk about Atlas, Persona 5, and the Switch. And this was a strange set of events that took place yesterday. I made a video on it because I thought the whole situation was weird in the first place. Look, Atlas, you know people want this game on the Switch. You've heard it a million times now. It was a whole thing last year when it was rumored and you saw it explode online, because then we saw Best Buy accidentally post a listing for it, and that was enough to get the internet going crazy. And I think it even trended for a little bit on Twitter just because of that. Well, at an IGN event, again, explained all of this in a video yesterday you can check out here on the channel. They were actually asked about Persona 5 Royal possibly going to the Switch, and the communications manager with Atlas USA said, hey, never say never, basically. I say never give up hope. You have to let them know. You have to let Atlas Japan, who's the decision makers, know that you still want this game. And what happened? Well, people rallied online yesterday on Twitter, hashtag BreakFreePersona, and that went crazy online. It went viral on Twitter. Seriously, tens of thousands of tweets, people talking about this. And it came back to the question, did Atlas plan this out and it's just free PR? Yeah, I mean, it is free PR, right? I mean, everyone's talking about Persona for a system that is not actually announced for right now, and they are trying to move Persona 5 Royal units in the West after it didn't do as well as they wanted it to in Japan. But do you know how you would fix that, Atlas? You would port it to the Switch. That's how you would do it. Most people at least have, I think, if they want it on the Switch, have expressed their desire to have it on the Switch. I also understand, here's the other thing you need to look at here, IGN was the one who asked the question, and a communications manager, seemingly by herself, said all of this. I do feel like she's probably a bit frustrated with Atlas Japan's own decision-making around this whole situation. So to me, I look at that and I say, okay, she probably just said this, the internet took it, ran with it, and here's where we are now with this trending and everyone looking at Atlas like, oh, you got us to advertise your stuff. I mean, look, the Switch is rolling along. It's doing very, very well, over 50 million units already out in the wild. If they want to move it over, they will, right? If there's no Sony deal in place, they'll move it over. Until then, I would just kind of hang out and see what Atlas Japan needs to do, because there's no more Vita, and I'm sure they want another platform to put Persona-like games on, whether it's Persona 5, the Ruby or Royal or whatever they want to recall it or something, because Persona 4 Golden, right, on the Vita. We'll see what they do with all of that, but at this point, I think they got the message, so I would just kind of leave it and see what happens. And in our last bit of news, I just want to quickly point at Dreams. This is an awesome game engine, game creation tool. I guess you can call it what you want, but it is a really, really neat thing to check out. Seriously, what people have been able to make with this is amazing. We've talked about some of this stuff before. We talked about Metal Gear Solid being kind of remade. It still looks a little funky at times, but I'm telling you, some of these creations look really, really good. Of course, you got the basics. You got Mario 64 being recreated, which does look a little off, but it's pretty neat to see that being recreated with the castle, a big fat Yoshi behind the castle, and it is a really cool looking thing, and it has all the Mario's jumps and all that, the triple jump. But then you get a little crazier. You got Wipeout. Wipeout's pretty neat as well. That's a cool thing to see. South Park. Someone recreated South Park, the town, and you can walk around in it, and it looks really, really cool as well. Someone did a whole Red Dead Redemption Online, which was more of a meme or joke than anything else, because every time you walk like 10 steps, it disconnects. Awesome idea there. And then on top of that, the best thing I've seen so far, by far, is this. Fallout 4. Somebody remade Fallout 4 in Dreams. I can't believe it either. Like, that is insane to me to see someone take Fallout 4, and it works, it seems. And when they booted it up, I said, wow, this is shockingly close to Fallout 4. It really is impressive what people have been able to do with Dreams, and you can look these up and download them for yourself and try playing them. It's all out there, and I do know that Media Molecule had talked about checking some of these out and looking into them to see if they could even farm some talent from the people making these, because there is some pretty serious talent out there right now in Dreams. Even if you don't like creating stuff, I think it's worth picking up just to try this stuff out. Imagine just getting a game, downloading a file, and then walking around in South Park. Like, what? Downloading a file and playing Wipeout, downloading a file, and then all of a sudden you're playing Mario 64. That is a really cool game, and I can't wait to see what people create going forward over the next few years as they get better and better with the tools there. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Connor saying, gotta be careful with XCOM. Even if you're 99% sure it's coming to Switch, you might get that 1% that it doesn't. That's XCOM, baby. Yeah, that was... I know your pain with that one. If you're unaware, if you're playing a strategy game like an XCOM or even like Final Fantasy Tactics, it's hit me there before too, right? Even Mario Rabbids, I guess. And when you're playing, of course, you'll see percentage based on, hey, this is your chance to hit, this is your chance to miss. And then XCOM, they'll give you that 1% sometimes. And for some reason, that 1% feels like 90%. It's like they flipped it. It's like I was looking at the wrong thing because you miss. The most aggravating part, though, is when you're playing XCOM, any of them, and you're right in front of the alien, like you have your gun pointed right at them, and you miss. Like you're right in front of them. Somehow the bullet came out of your gun, out of the barrel to the left or right, and you just flat out miss. I mean, you could have swung at them, and you probably would have had a better chance hitting them. That was always the most aggravating part. But I know what you mean, and hopefully Switch owners with XCOM will know soon too. Ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's CryEngine and Warface coming to the Switch. Did that surprise you? Maybe you had played it on other platforms and it was like, whoa, okay, there's a first-person shooter MMO popping up on the Switch, or maybe this was your first time seeing it. Keep in mind though, CryEngine, another engine getting ported and moved over to the Switch. Interesting stuff there to see if that turns into anything else, and it shows just really how capable that Switch continues to be. Then also, what do you think about that Final Fantasy VII Remake file size? I feel like most people expected it to be large, but 100 gigabytes right off the jump, and then you also probably have a patch, and I feel like there's gonna be quite a bit of stuff in this game, and it's just one part of the overall vision. Exciting stuff there. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.